Chris, I was thinking about robbing a store.
You can't do that. You'll get shot, Jimmy.
I'm white.
Oh, yeah.
I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a single person that can deny MrBeast being the biggest YouTuber of all time. And with that, he's tried his best to remain out of drama, though it doesn't always work out, which is what we'll be discussing today. Around 2017, MrBeast's channel was truly on the rise, raking in millions of new viewers and subscribers as his stunts became bigger and bigger. He was quickly becoming one of the most talked about YouTubers on the platform, as younger users flocked to his videos to see what ludicrous amounts of money he would give away next. Of course, with such an explosive rise to prominence, there would be some who wanted to take him down in any way they could. On May 24th, 2018, a journalist by the name of Taylor Lorenz wrote an article for The Atlantic titled, "YouTube's Biggest Philanthropist Has a History of Homophobic Comments." In it, she detailed Jimmy's semi-frequent use of the word gay as a derogatory term on Twitter, as well as other instances of him saying perceived homophobic slurs even just a year prior. The infamous journalist seemed to make the argument that MrBeast's family-friendly image was actually just a facade hiding a bigoted monster. On top of that, people also dug through his old videos and discovered more questionable material. In a video titled, "I Sexually Identify as an Attack Helicopter," Jimmy and his longtime friend Chris Tyson riffed on the meme that was popular at the time of claiming one's gender to be a piece of military machinery.
I've never told anyone this, but I was actually born a tank, but sadly it wasn't one of our 52 genders.
While most were able to recognize these as edgy jokes that were being made by countless other teenagers of the era, others insisted that this was proof MrBeast was a homophobe and a transphobe. When asked for comment on Lorenz's article, Jimmy had this to say.
"I'm not offensive in the slightest bit in anything I do. I'm just going to ignore it. I don't think anyone cares about this stuff."
The rising YouTube star then went through and wiped away all of the offending content from his social media accounts. However, this would not be the only evidence used to paint the MrBeast team as bigoted. In 2021, Chris Tyson's old tweets from around the same era as Jimmy's controversial posts began circulating as well. These statements included examples of alleged racism and transphobia, as well as several comments critical of the Islamic religion, and even a video of Chris saying the N-word.
Okay, Google, spell I-cup, nigga.
Chris would also quickly delete these tweets and posted a twit-longer apology for what he said, claiming that he had, quote, "a lot of hate for himself" at the time he wrote those statements. The internet as a whole soon forgot about the ordeal as the MrBeast team stopped commenting on it publicly and simply chose to move on. But there are still many online who cite these old posts as their reason for hating Jimmy and his friends even to this day. In the early days of the channel, Jimmy was not exactly posting the high-effort spectacles he is known for now. Back then, he mainly stuck to voiceover commentary over Call of Duty footage. His main strategy for growth at the time was collaborating with other rising stars. On May 31st, 2014, he uploaded a video titled, "5 YouTubers I Think Will Be Famous." While most of the channels Jimmy mentioned did not go on to achieve much notoriety, one name should stand out to modern-day listeners.
At number 2, I have Sneako, and if you've ever seen Sneako's videos, you realize that they're kind of addicting. Once you start watching them, it's kind of hard to stop.
Yes, just as MrBeast was on the rise, so too was the now infamous creator known as Sneako. The two were both making videos in the Call of Duty commentary genre, and thus became aware of each other very quickly. They interacted in comment sections frequently, and shared a friendly rivalry as they continually passed one another in subscribers. But this all changed when MrBeast's growth skyrocketed around 2018, launching him into a new stage of his career. But this was not the end of Jimmy and Sneako's relationship. Admiring Jimmy's success on YouTube, Sneako decided to join his team in order to learn more about how to make a name for himself on the platform. He appeared in a video uploaded in June 2018, titled, "I built a working car using only Legos." Despite his goal to use Jimmy's rapidly expanding audience to build his own fanbase though, this would be Sneako's one and only appearance on the MrBeast channel, as he quietly left not long afterward. The online commentator would go on to elaborate on the details of his exit a few years later in a video titled, "The Most Important Lesson I Learned Working for MrBeast." In it, he explained that he and Jimmy did not see eye to eye on the philosophy of video creation. While MrBeast wanted to study the algorithm to create the most viral videos possible, Sneako claimed he preferred to focus on only the things that interested him, even if they appealed to a smaller audience. But, according to him, he had not left willingly, as he had been let go by the channel's management shortly after the Lego car video. Jimmy himself has not said much about Sneako in the years that followed. Seemingly, he would prefer to keep their two brands separate, as Sneako has become more and more infamous as the years have progressed. While this is not necessarily a controversy per se, there have been some who criticize Jimmy for ever interacting with Sneako at all, as even in his early videos, he stated opinions on social and political topics that some found questionable. But he would not be the only MrBeast team member to get fired, and others in his position would not go out so quietly. Marcus Pearson joined the MrBeast team around 2019, with viewers taking a liking to his outgoing and charismatic personality. But his tenure with the group would not last long, as he was let go a little under a year later in 2020. While the MrBeast brand made no public statement on the matter, Marcus himself was not so quiet. In the days that followed, he would post multiple Instagram stories in an attempt to expose Jimmy. However, most people who saw these videos felt like they contained no real accusations against Marcus's former employer, and instead just came off as unhinged ramblings.
The only conclusion that I can make is that he's broken somewhere else. That's the only conclusion that I can come up with. He has a disconnect. I mean, he has all the connections up here and everywhere else with money. Yes, of course, you can do anything with money. But there's a disconnect somewhere.
In fact, the only thing resembling an actual allegation of wrongdoing came when Marcus seemed to imply that Jimmy was responsible for the pandemic.
He started this pandemic for a reason, so we can wake the fuck up.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, these videos caused many onlookers to wonder if the reason Marcus had been fired from MrBeast was due to drug abuse. While it's easy to see why someone would jump to that conclusion, it's important to note that this is entirely speculation, with the only real evidence behind it being that Marcus smoked a cigarette in some of his Instagram stories. While neither Jimmy nor his management have ever spoken out publicly about Marcus's exit from the channel, most people agree it was probably a mix of his poor behavior as well as cost-cutting measures due to the global conditions that year. Matt Turner was an editor that MrBeast hired in the mid-2010s. He remained with the team for some time before parting ways with them a few years later. At the time, it seemed like it had been an amicable split. Matt would go on to post a video to his personal YouTube channel titled "Why I Quit Working for MrBeast," in which he had nothing but positive things to say about his experience editing for Jimmy. In fact, he claimed that his employer had even paid his rent for the entirety of his time working for him. But it wouldn't be long until Matt's recollection of the job would change completely. In October of 2019, Matt posted a thread on Twitter detailing the reality of his time on the MrBeast channel, with a much different tone than he had when he spoke about it previously.
I'm not gonna make a full video about my time editing for MrBeast, but I will say that it was the most mentally draining time of my life. I was yelled at, bullied, called mentally retarded and replaceable by MrBeast every day.
Matt went on to allege that verbal abuse was a standard practice behind the scenes at the channel, and that he never received credit for any of his editing work. When this thread went up, many people expressed skepticism to his claims due to a lack of evidence, as Matt provided no screenshots of his interactions with MrBeast management as proof. These onlookers also pointed to Matt's older video praising Jimmy as another sign of his duplicitous nature. On top of that, they pointed out that a similar situation had happened a year prior with another former MrBeast editor by the name of Fly, who posted a now deleted video with his own accusations of verbal abuse behind the scenes. In that instance, Matt had responded by saying Fly's story did not match his own experiences working for Jimmy. In fact, Fly actually replied to Matt's 2019 call-out with support, doubling down on his claims of abuse and advising Matt to be careful about speaking further. While Turner did post screenshots of text conversations between himself and someone who allegedly also had bad experiences working for MrBeast, he was unable to provide anything further. The internet as a whole was still very skeptical of the story, and this was only strengthened when Keemstar uploaded an episode of his show Drama Alert on October 9th. In this video, Jimmy claimed that not only was Matt lying about being abused, but that he had been paid $10,000 in severance upon leaving the channel. It's important to note that this episode of Drama Alert has since been removed from the internet for unknown reasons. After this, the opinion of the internet seemed to be fully in MrBeast's favor. Matt continued uploading videos to his personal YouTube channel, receiving dwindling views and a significant amount of dislikes. A year later, he posted a video reflecting on the whole affair. But this too would be poorly received, as people accused Turner of downplaying his actions. In the time since, Matt has scrubbed every single one of his MrBeast related videos from his channel, and the lack of documentation for the entire affair has left this story nothing more than a vague memory in the minds of most internet users. On YouTube, it's not uncommon for channels based in foreign countries to take content from English-speaking creators and remake it in their native tongue. These channels rarely face repercussions for this, as overseas viewers have no idea that the videos they're watching are nothing more than imitations of someone else's work. But every so often, these plagiarists will go after the wrong YouTuber and face the wrath of their massive audience. In February of 2021, MrBeast was made aware of a content creator from Belarus who had an eerily familiar style of videos and thumbnails. The American went to Twitter and posted the following.
The largest channel in Russia just takes my thumbnails and photoshops his face on mine.
Based on the evidence he provided in this tweet, Jimmy's claims seemed irrefutable. He showed multiple examples of the Eastern European YouTube channel named A4 blatantly reusing his thumbnails down to the exact details. Once MrBeast went public with this, other American YouTubers began chiming in, claiming that A4 had ripped off their videos as well. And this was not some small YouTuber either, as the Belarusian creator often pulled in similar viewership numbers to MrBeast at the time, and was the largest channel in its region. With such a massive internet personality calling him out, it wouldn't be long before A4's creator, Vladislav Bumaga, responded to the accusations on his Instagram story. One user in MrBeast replies roughly translated it as,
"Better to watch the quality of my content than the American. I do it 10K times better. Pics takes 10 minutes, filming 4 to 10 hours, without editing and planning."
This only served to further the backlash against A4, as people called his reaction to MrBeast's call-out arrogant and dismissive. Jimmy's fans began going to Vlad's channel in order to dislike his videos and leave angry comments. However, this has done little to quell his growth, as even to this day he continues to rake in millions of views per upload. Given the language barrier, it's unclear if Vlad and his team are still ripping off other creators. But it ultimately doesn't matter much either way, as MrBeast's viewership numbers are currently significantly higher than that of A4. And that can mainly be attributed to Jimmy's focus on elaborate stunts rather than cheap imitations. But despite his dedication to showmanship, not all of MrBeast's ideas are flawless. A major part of MrBeast's appeal is his willingness to give away ludicrous amounts of money to his fanbase in the name of spectacle. In fact, many have subscribed to Jimmy because of his frequent monetary giveaways. And as his channel grew, so did his ambitions. In June of 2020, MrBeast released a phone game called Finger on the App. As the name implies, the goal was for players to keep their digits on their phone screens for as long as possible without removing them. The game will keep track of every player around the world, with the last man standing receiving a grand prize of $25,000. When the challenge started, over 1 million people across the globe all joined in to try to win the cash. As can be expected from such a high-profile event, there were a few troublemakers. One person created a robot to simulate a finger, while someone on Twitch changed their username in order to trick unsuspecting people streaming their gameplay into getting knocked out.
Toast_Buster with a $5 donut. Ben here since 69K. Can you give a shout out to my son, Asiri, I think it is? Siri? Asiri.
Snap. I pulled up a Siri, dude.
Do you lose a life?
Yeah.
But for the most part, things went smoothly as players were eliminated one by one. Eventually, after several days of playing, all but 4 of the contestants were out. MrBeast decided to reward their dedication by ending the contest early, giving the remaining players $20,000 each. By all accounts, this experiment turned out to be a success, so MrBeast and his team got to work figuring out how they could top it. In March of 2021, Beast Games released a new mobile experience called Finger on the App 2, featuring the same rules as the previous game. This time around, though, the prize had been raised to a whopping $100,000. Once again, over 1 million people downloaded the app and got their fingers in position. But those who were expecting a smooth gameplay experience like the previous Finger on the App challenge were sorely disappointed. If someone were to scroll through the user reviews for the application today, they would find a plethora of angry players who claim to have been unfairly eliminated due to the software's buggy nature. Almost immediately after the game started, tweets and videos began being posted by people who had been dropped from the game for seemingly no reason, as their fingers had never left their phone screens. These angry players hurled accusations at MrBeast, saying he had released a substandard product in order to scam his fanbase. To his credit, Jimmy and his team were quick to respond to these criticisms, saying they were looking into any potential glitches and offering other explanations as to why people may have been eliminated, such as connection issues or moisture affecting the touchscreen sensitivity. While this calmed things down a tad, the deluge of outrage was still ongoing. Perhaps this anger would have been less severe if it hadn't been for Finger on the App's 2 form of monetization. If a user wanted some extra breathing room, they could purchase additional lives from anywhere between $3 to $8. This only led to more people feeling as though they had been ripped off, as these lives disappeared frequently with very little explanation. Once again though, the Beast Games team were quick to step in to do damage control, offering refunds to players who felt like they had unfairly lost lives they had purchased. Once again, there were still many angry customers, but this kept the situation from getting out of control. However, there was one other commonly occurring reason for players being eliminated that was harder to explain. What needs to be understood is that Finger on the App 2 was sponsored by the phone game Lords Mobile, and the way they went about advertising it seemed to irk a large number of users. Many people reported being knocked out by a pop-up ad interrupting their gameplay out of nowhere. Some people felt as though this was a deliberate attempt to eliminate a large number of players simultaneously. Jimmy's team flatly denied this accusation though, claiming that people were misinterpreting what was happening. According to them, the ads were only supposed to play after a contestant had already been knocked out, so these instances were actually just a matter of players not paying attention to their phone screens, losing all their lives, and then assuming the ad had been responsible. Eventually, despite all the hardships and complaints, a winner was decided for the challenge after just over 2 days of gameplay. While MrBeast's PR team managed to keep the anger felt by many players from spiraling into full-on outrage, the many bugs and glitches reported about Finger on the App 2 certainly tainted its reputation in the eyes of most internet users. As of now, there seems to be no plans for a Finger on the App 3, as Jimmy has moved on to more grandiose methods of giving out money to his fanbase. In 2021, a Netflix show by the name of Squid Game took the world by storm. The South Korean drama about poor people competing in a series of deadly challenges in order to pay off their debts captivated millions, making it the streaming service's most popular series of all time. With all the hype surrounding Squid Game, there were many on the outside looking in who wanted a piece of that pie. And one of those people was MrBeast. On October 11th, Jimmy posted a TikTok claiming that if his post received 10 million likes, he would recreate Squid Game in real life. The video received nearly double that, with over 19 million people encouraging the YouTube celebrity to go through with his plan. And he quickly set to work turning it into a reality. Over the next few weeks, he would post occasional updates on how progress was going, until he finally revealed in November that he and his team had painstakingly and accurately recreated every single set from the show. Finally, on November 14th, Jimmy uploaded $456,000 Squid Game in real life, in which hundreds of contestants competed to win the grand prize. As was showcased on Twitter, Jimmy had made perfect recreations of every single game from the South Korean series. And just like Netflix's Squid Game, this video soon became MrBeast's most popular upload in history. Not everybody was so thrilled about this project though. Many people began voicing their distaste for the video, saying that Jimmy was just an out-of-touch rich person who had completely missed the point of Squid Game. While the original show had been a critique of capitalism, they believed that MrBeast had embraced the premise without question. Jimmy's fans fought back against this, claiming critics were simply reading too far into what was nothing more than a fun bit. Even if what they were saying was true, it still ended with someone winning money, so the net result was positive. For his part, MrBeast remained silent on the matter, seemingly happy enough with his hundreds of millions of views that he was able to ignore the outrage. That vegan teacher has been an infamous figure on the internet for several years, as she has made multiple videos angrily condemning popular YouTubers for consuming animal products. Her channel's success seems to thrive on controversy. She will put a popular influencer's name in the title of her uploads. That person's fans will come to express their disdain, and the cycle will repeat itself. Given his enormous amount of subscribers, it should come as no surprise that one of the vegan teacher's targets has been MrBeast. Her first attack on the YouTube mega celebrity came in August of 2021, when she reacted to his video, "I ate a $70,000 golden pizza."
Is it vegan? He doesn't say so.
We will be eating a $70,000 pizza.
Oh my god. This is incredible.
Yo, $2,000 steak.
Oh my god.
Steak is a dead animal that didn't want to die.
Her criticisms were exactly what one would expect. The entire video continued like this, with the vegan teacher repeatedly chastising Jimmy and his friends for allegedly promoting the consumption of meat to their millions of young fans. This video was quickly discovered by the internet at large, and received a staggering dislike ratio of 96% out of over 75,000 total ratings. Of course, this only encouraged the plant-munching YouTuber to continue posting videos about MrBeast, with a very similar theme. These further uploads also received a great deal of negative attention, most likely assuring that the vegan teacher will continue using MrBeast's name to farm outrage for the foreseeable future. In a shocking twist, her videos have not convinced Jimmy to renounce his meat-eating ways, as he continues to enjoy a non-vegan diet to this day. In addition to his normal uploads on the MrBeast channel, Jimmy and the gang also conduct frequent charity work which they film and upload to an account called Beast Philanthropy. These videos have been largely enjoyed by the team's core audience and ignored by the rest of the internet population. However, when one of these charity videos was uploaded to the main account, people took notice in a big way. On January 28th, 2023, MrBeast posted a video titled 1,000 Blind People See for the First Time. Jimmy found 1,000 people across the globe whose vision was impaired and paid for them to have cataract surgery done. Not only that, but he also gave many of the participants additional cash donations, and even gifted one teenager a free Tesla. In it, Jimmy explained how simple the procedure was, and stated his belief that it should be available to everyone who needs it. He also included a link in the description so people could donate and help more people around the world to see. To many, this was seen as an incredibly generous act from the YouTube superstar. However, not everyone felt that way. Shortly after the video was uploaded, an increasingly vocal subsection of Twitter began expressing their displeasure with what MrBeast had done. They accused Jimmy of exploiting the blind people in the video for content, believing that he had no actual desire to help anyone. Others pointed out that the money to pay for the procedures did not come from Jimmy's own pockets, but instead from the Beast Philanthropy charity. They argued that this supposed act of generosity was nothing more than a thinly veiled tax write-off. It probably goes without saying that this was a vocal minority, and most onlookers on Twitter agreed that these detractors were reaching to find something to criticize Beast for. However, Jimmy decided to uncharacteristically weigh in on the backlash, stating in a tweet,
Twitter, rich people should help others with their money. Me, okay, I'll use my money to help people, and I promise to give away all of my money before I die, every single penny. Twitter, MrBeast bad.
This response caused further outrage from the people who wanted the wealthy YouTuber to spend his time sitting in front of a webcam on livestream complaining about the state of the world rather than doing something to make it a better place. But once again, the vast majority took his side and agreed that the criticisms were petty. It should be noted that Jimmy actually continued responding to people who were critical of his video after this. Apparently, something about his backlash had touched a nerve, causing him to break from his normal strategy of ignoring controversy until it died down. When people continued accusing him of profiting off his charity work, MrBeast jumped in to state that he had in fact lost $1.5 million on videos the previous year. A couple months later, in March of 2023, a video was uploaded to the Beast Philanthropy channel titled "Giving 20,000 Shoes to Kids in Africa." Although this was published to the normally overlooked charity channel, the fact that it came out so close to the other controversial MrBeast project ignited another round of outrage. People on Twitter once again accused Jimmy of not really caring about the people he was helping, and instead exploiting them for views and profit. But just like before, this was a vocal minority, and most Twitter users praised Jimmy for his actions. This controversy would be stirred up for a third time in May of 2023, when the MrBeast channel saw a new upload called 1,000 Deaf People Here for the First Time. In this video, Jimmy paid to have several hundred hearing-impaired people across the globe receive state-of-the-art hearing aids, which would adapt to their specific needs. Just like the previous instances, this act of charity received a mixed reception. This time though, the negative response was slightly different. Some deaf people accused Jimmy and his team of misrepresenting the reality of the situation, as hearing aids often aren't as effective as they seem in the video. They argued that the wearers usually take some time to fully adjust to the devices, which occasionally don't work at all. But as usual, these criticisms were dismissed by most, and Jimmy did not respond. In recent years, MrBeast has been expanding his brand beyond just YouTube videos. Not only did he create a hamburger chain called Beast Burger, but in 2022, Jimmy launched Feastables, his own line of candies and chocolate bars. Over time, these treats would start being sold in Walmart stores across America, and were a big hit with the MrBeast fanbase. Despite their popularity with subscribers of the channel though, they were of course unable to compete with the pre-existing juggernauts of the chocolate industry. This didn't stop Jimmy from trying though. On March 3rd, 2023, he posted a tweet lamenting the fact that the Feastables displays on store shelves often didn't look as clean and professional as his competitors. While he said he was hiring a team to fix this, in the meantime he asked his fans to tidy up any Feastables displays they saw in the wild. There were some onlookers who took issue with this, accusing MrBeast of using his audience for free labor. But for the most part, his fans were happy to help with this. No, it would be a different tweet posted shortly after that more people took issue with.
And while you're at it, if you want to maybe move some Hershey's bars and make sure Feastables has plenty of space, I wouldn't complain.
While most of his fans understood this was sarcasm, others accused him of being petty. But the biggest criticism came from those who noticed the timing of this tweet. You see, around this period, Hershey had been receiving backlash for a new ad campaign which featured a transgender woman. While there weren't many people making this connection, it was enough for some to accuse him of trying to use bigotry to promote his product. Most people simply chose to mock this way of thinking, but it seemed as though MrBeast did not want to deal with the headache, and soon deleted his tweet. Since basically the beginning of his YouTube career, Jimmy has been joined by his good friend Chris Tyson. From the channel's humble beginnings to the titan of online entertainment that it is today, Chris has been one of the biggest faces of the MrBeast brand for many years. In the early days, Tyson represented a very masculine southern presence in the group dynamic. That's why, when fans started noticing certain physical changes that Chris had been going through, they became confused. On April 4th, 2023, a Twitter user posted a side-by-side comparison of how the entertainer looked several years ago versus how he appeared in the latest MrBeast video. His beard was gone, his hair had grown longer, his arms were thinner, and even the shape of his face had changed. This tweet included the caption, "Bro, WTF happened?" signifying many fans' confusion as to what was going on behind the scenes. This question was soon answered the next day when Chris replied to the post by saying, "HRT and it's only been 2 months." He went into further detail on a second account, explaining why he felt the care he had been receiving was so important. With this announcement now public, it's doubtful that Chris or anyone else on the MrBeast team could have predicted what a massive response it would go on to receive, both positive and negative. While Jimmy, the other MrBeast members, and legions of fans all threw their support behind the transitioning YouTube star, many others expressed their objections to what he was doing. The most common talking point seemed to come from the belief that Chris had abandoned his wife and child in order to adopt this new lifestyle. While it was true that the married couple had separated, there is currently no evidence that the split was due to the transition. In addition, Chris flatly denied any rumors that he would stop being a presence in his own son's life.
This is just more dog whistling that somehow trans and GNC folks aren't safe around kids. Tucker begs for me to come back when I leave for like 2 days to film. He is so loved and happy. Kids aren't born with hate, it's taught by people like you, and my child will only know love.
While this statement generated more support from those who stood behind Chris, the skeptics stood firm in their belief that, even if the MrBeast member wasn't abandoning his child, he was still depriving him of a fatherly figure. As for Jimmy himself, his responses were brief, but still showed that he was in his friend's corner. As all of this initial hubbub was happening, a Twitter user by the name of Yoxic, who had been one of the people posting memes making fun of Chris, tweeted out a screenshot from an apparent message he had received from Tyson. In it, the MrBeast team member seemed to be threatening a defamation lawsuit due to the memes he had been spreading. This tweet quickly gained traction, with many believing it to be legitimate. The post soon caught the attention of Chris himself, who responded jokingly with a picture of Jimmy captioned, "My lawyer will be in contact with you immediately." While most were able to recognize that both parties had not been serious, there were still many people who took the story at face value and began publishing news articles about the alleged lawsuit. Chris soon reached out to Yoxic privately in an attempt to clear the air. But the Twitter user did not accept the olive branch, and his animosity toward Tyson was apparently all too real. At the very least though, the speculation about Chris's legal actions died down after this. Now, even though Chris had publicly stated his reasons for transitioning, there were some who theorized that more was going on behind the scenes. They pointed out Tyson's old edgy comments online, and declared there was no way he could have come to this decision to take hormone therapy on his own. In their eyes, there was clearly someone else to blame for this, and they believed they knew exactly who it was: Carl. For those that don't know, a few years prior to this event, a new member had been added to the MrBeast crew by the name of Carl Jacobs. While he was a well-liked addition to the channel by most, there were some who expressed their concerns over his effect on his fellow teammates. These viewers accused Carl of being too effeminate in his demeanor, and worried that these traits would begin to rub off on the other MrBeast boys. They felt that these concerns became validated when Chris began presenting himself as more feminine, compounded by the fact that Carl and Tyson had already proven to be very close friends years prior to any of this happening. While this is obviously nothing more than speculation by a subsection of the MrBeast audience, these viewers have taken to calling this phenomenon the Carl effect. Regardless of his reasons for doing so, the debate regarding Chris's transition continues to rage online. On April 13th, a YouTuber by the name of SunnyV2 uploaded a video titled, "Why Chris Will Soon Be a Nightmare for MrBeast," in which he went over the details of the controversy and explained why he believed it could be a potential disaster for the MrBeast brand. However, viewers took issue with the arguments he used. For example, at one point in the video, Sunny says this.
This was put forward in many comments supportive of Chris, who implied that there'll be millions of queer kids who look up to him, although this doesn't necessarily mean that it'll add any value to the videos. MrBeast has likely cultivated a massive LGBT audience, all of whom are already watching anyway, and if we've learned anything from Hollywood in recent years, it's that adding over-the-top LGBT characters for the sake of relatability rarely works as intended, and is often nothing more than a distraction from the premise of the movie or video.
Many people objected heavily to Sunny's conclusion here, saying that comparing the personal decisions of a real person to the depiction of a gay character in a fictional movie was absurd. This video quickly became the most widely talked about response to the drama, with SunnyV2 trending on Twitter for multiple days afterward and the upload itself receiving a near 50-50 like to dislike ratio. Even MrBeast himself chimed in to give his thoughts on Sunny's video.
Yeah, this is getting absurd. Chris isn't my nightmare, he's my fucking friend and things are fine. All this transphobia is starting to piss me off.
If he hadn't made his position on the matter clear earlier, this response firmly established Jimmy's full support behind Chris. But just like before, while many people praised the YouTube star for standing up for his friend, many more continued expressing their objections to what was happening. MrBeast's former friend and collaborator Sneako called out the team on a live stream, saying that they should be trying to convince Chris to change his mind rather than supporting him.
People that are encouraging this, they think that they're doing the right thing. They're all brainwashed. Even MrBeast thinks that he's doing the right thing by supporting his friend Chris. Brainwashed. If you really cared, you would not encourage his delusion now.
Other commentators in that sphere of the internet also weighed in, with some agreeing that it was irresponsible of Jimmy to support Chris, while others echoed Sunny's perspective that MrBeast had been socially backed into a corner.
Because if he says to Chris, listen Chris, you're screwing up the dynamic of the show, right? We didn't bargain for this. You want to make your personal life decisions, you want to take some time, you want to figure out what you're all about, that's fine. But you don't get to enact your personal dramas on the set.
On top of that, other people on Twitter voiced concern for Chris's son after he posted a video to Snapchat of the child wearing high-heeled shoes. They saw this as proof that Tyson was attempting to groom his offspring into his lifestyle, and that he was no longer fit to be a father. But regardless of any criticism they were receiving, the MrBeast team stood by Chris and kept him as an active member of the group. Although there has been some speculation that Tyson may have been quietly let go from the company. Those who believe this to be true often use two key pieces of evidence to support their claim. The first is that Jimmy had apparently unfollowed Chris on Instagram, and the two were not seen together in the YouTube star's latest social media posts. Many were quick to dismiss this, as checking now reveals that they actually still follow each other, and Chris has simply been on vacation, explaining why he hasn't been in Jimmy's photos. The other seemingly more damning piece of evidence comes in the form of a clip from a live streamer named Dr. Donut, in which MrBeast appears to show up in the chat and confirm that Chris had been fired.
I know I'm gonna get hate, but the truth is we had to get rid of Chris. Nah, no way this is real. No way! Chris is gone!
But this was also soon debunked, as eagle-eyed viewers noticed Dr. Donut clearly pulling up MrBeast's channel in a new window rather than just opening it directly through the link. Not only that, but confirming the firing of one of his closest friends via the live chat of someone who wasn't even related to the controversy was completely out of character for how Jimmy normally handled this sort of thing. A few days later, Chris was forced to clarify in a short video uploaded to a Snapchat that he was not fired. He had just been taking a break from the spotlight in order to spend more time with his son.
Nope, I pretty much told Jimmy, just because I want to spend time with Tucker and he's traveling a lot, I'm just going to come and go as I please. I came to Japan. and I left when I pleased.
And so far it seems as though the mass exodus of viewers that many of the detractors were predicting has not happened, as the MrBeast channel still rakes in millions of clicks every day. Time will tell if this controversy ultimately affects the brand in the long run, but for the time being it seems like things will continue smoothly even after this rough patch. So there you have the many controversies of MrBeast. And there's no doubt there will be more going forward, though Jimmy will try his best to prevent them from getting out of hand. So with that thought, I think I'll end the video here, and until next time, thanks for watching.